Irene Morales Infante was a Chilean soldier who served in the War of the Pacific. She was born in a barrio of Santiago, and lived in poverty throughout her life, working as a seamstress from an early age. At the time the War of the Pacific began, she was only 13 years old, and had been orphaned and twice widowed. Her second husband was executed by the Bolivian military for killing a soldier. She tried to pass herself as a man and enlist as a soldier in the Chilean army. This failed, but she was given a position as an unofficial cantonnier and military nurse, marching alongside the infantrymen to sell food and drink, and caring for the wounded after battles. Despite being given a non-combatant role, she fought alongside the men of her unit in the battles of the Tarapacá campaign in late 1879, at Pisagua and San Francisco. Her valor in these battles and her care for wounded men drew the attention of Chilean Commander-in-Chief Manuel Baquedano, who provided her with official recognition and the rank of a sergeant. She continued to serve in the army for the duration of the war and was famously courageous at the Battle of Tacna in 1880. After the war, she returned to civilian life and died in obscurity, aged only 25. Now considered one of Chile's greatest heroes of the war, her service only became widely known after her death. Early life. Morales was born on the 1st of April 1865 in La Chimba, a barrio on the Mapocho River in Santiago de Chile, the daughter of carpenter Ventura Morales and Marta Infante. Her father died when she was young, and she moved with her mother to Valparaiso, though she started to learn her mother's trade as a seamstress until her mother married her to an older man in 1877. At age 11, her husband died during the first year of the marriage, and her mother died about the same time. Left without any family, Morales headed for Antofagasta, then a port town in Bolivia that was booming due to the nitrate mines in the area. She traveled there as a steerage passenger, with a ticket she bought by selling nearly all of her possessions. While working there, she met Santiago Pizarro, a Chilean in his 30s who made his living in a Bolivian military band, and married him in mid-1878. Aged 13. He was tried and executed on the 21st of September of that year for killing a Bolivian soldier in a drunken brawl. She found his body dumped by the side of the railway tracks and took a gold ring from his finger, which she wore for the rest of her life. Pizarro's execution was widely protested by the mostly Chilean population of Antofagasta, which resented what was seen as an unjust Bolivian government. Military service. On the 14th of February 1879, Chilean forces entered Antofagasta to the welcome of most of the local population, beginning the War of the Pacific against Bolivia and Peru. Many locals enlisted in the Chilean army, and Morales enlisted as a soldier to avenge her husband by disguising herself as a man and slipping in unnoticed amid the frenzy of patriotism. Her deception did not last long, for Captain Hermogenes Camus saw through her disguise immediately, because of her curved figure and feminine beauty, he said. Nonetheless, he allowed her to be an unauthorized army cantonnier and nurse. These were the only positions available to women in the army at the time, and many women effectively served as both, which Morales did. As a cantonnier, she sold food and drink to supplement soldiers' monotonous basic rations, staying with them at the camp and marching with them on operations, and since she was a nurse, she had to be present immediately after battles to care for the wounded. Morales was first sent to Camus's unit, the 3rd Regiment of the Line, which was at the front of Chile's campaigns during much of the war. Although she officially was not a soldier and was not supposed to participate in combat, this did not deter her from fighting alongside the men of her regiment. Indeed, she was noted for her great skill with the rifle. She fought at the amphibious landing and fierce ensuing assault on a Peruvian position of the Battle of Pisagua on the 2nd of November 1879 and at the Battle of San Francisco on the 19th of November. She was looked up to by the men of her unit for her selfless nursing of the wounded after battles. She also put herself at risk several times to save captured Peruvian soldiers from being abused by her compatriots. Hearing of her deeds, the commander-in-chief of Chile's military, General Manuel Baquedano, summoned Morales to meet him and officially authorized her to wear the uniform of a cannoneer and gave her the rank and pay of a sergeant. She later moved to the 4th Division, in which she served during the Tacna and Arica campaign. At the Battle of Tacna on the 26th of May 1880, she continued to provide water to the exhausted men at the front lines after she received a slight wound herself. She was one of the first soldiers to enter the city of Tacna that evening, and soldiers of the Carabineros de Yungay Cavalry Regiment recalled her riding into the town on a horse, raising her rifle as they passed by and crying, "Viva Chile!" After the battle, she was stricken for some time with an illness she picked up from prisoners of war she had cared for, and she wrote a letter to a friend of hers in Antofagasta, assuming she was on her deathbed. Nonetheless, later writers said she was present at the Battle of Arica 2 weeks later and ordered the mass killing of captured Peruvians, an account also inscribed on a Peruvian memorial to the dead. During January 1881, she fought at the Battle of Corrales and Battle of Miraflores and was among the Chileans who entered Lima after the city was captured. While all her contemporaries in Chile recognized her heroism, and the common soldiers she served with looked up to her as the nun of charity, some men said Morales had gone too far for a woman by taking up a rifle. Benjamin Vicuna McKenna praised her for her dedication and bravery and for her hatred for those who killed her husband, but in 1881 gave her the free advice that she should not put herself at such risk and should return quietly to her poor home and restart the life of a real woman in manual labor, in caring for her relatives, and work with the needle and thimble, and exchange, after several years of adventures and passions, the revolver for her honored and beloved sewing machine. She did not follow this advice and remained in the army until the end of the war, fighting in the Battle of Huamachuco on the 10th of July 1883, the last battle of the war. Men like McKenna were right to say she put herself at unusual risk for a woman at the time, for several other Chilean cannoneers were killed after being captured by Peruvians during the war. Later life and legacy. After the end of the war, Morales returned to her birthplace of Santiago. While few knew of her actions during the war, the men she served alongside remembered her well. When she appeared at the unveiling of the monument to the common Chilean Roto at the Plaza Yungay, she received some of the most enthusiastic applause. After years of illness, she died in anonymity in the common room of a Santiago hospital on the 25th of August 1890, aged only 25. For her, widespread recognition came only after her death. On the 25th of August 1930, 40 years after her death, Col. Enrique Phillips wrote an article dedicated to her in El Mercurio that brought her into attention, in which he praised her in the highest terms, saying, "The Judiths of Chile were many in the glorious time, but none exceeded in valor Irene Morales, the paragon of Chilean women." In the years after her death, a number of poems were written on her, including one by Romulo Larrañaga, and she was featured in many works of patriotic literature. A street near the Plaza Baquedano in Santiago is named in her honor, the Calle Irene Morales. During the turbulent years of the 1970s, she was among the historical Chilean women embraced as symbols by both conservative and left left-wing women's political organizations. In modern times, she has been described as one of Chile's greatest heroes of the War of the Pacific. Her remains are kept in the military mausoleum at the Cementerio General de Santiago, which is maintained by the Chilean army. Morales is often compared to Candelaria Perez, a Chilean cannoneer of the earlier War of the Confederation who was also praised for her courage and who also came from La Chimba.